We're live then.
Here we are.
That's right. Here we are. Actually, that light looks a little bit better now.
Good.
Now your face, only half your face is white. While we wait for people to come on, they'll all laugh about this. This is like an everyday thing for me and Jay. We get to talk to each other, see each other. We saw each other for 9 hours on Saturday. And so those guys that follow me, you guys that are out there in Georgia and stuff that'll be watching today, you guys get to meet him. I talk about him all the time. So this is Jason Flame. He's got our Karate and Krav Maga school out in Moorpark. He's got his own podcast, Master Motivation. It's his motivation things I do on Mondays. And so with no further ado, this is Jason Flame. It's good to see you this morning, sir.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be on the other side of the camera, so to speak, today.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that because usually you're talking about everybody else and how everybody else is doing and but before I get going, did you watch Blake's fight?
I have not watched it. I know the result, but I didn't get to watch it yet.
He knocked that fool out, bro.
Yeah, his mom sent me a video, and I was gonna watch it this morning, and I was literally rushing out of the house to get here. So
it's not very long, dude. So you can watch it where you're going. Yeah, well, you can watch it while you're going to the bathroom. To be honest with you. So yeah, it was a good fight. It was he was super hyped and I just talked to him the other night, so I'm gonna have him on post fight. We're gonna talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, he looked good. He looked lean. He came down, a ton of weight. Looking super sharp. I was watching all his training videos, so
yeah, yeah, it was good. Yeah, it was real good. So Jay, why don't we? This will be a little bit more about you because nobody gets to know a lot about you sometimes. So we'll start with why don't you talk about your family? Mom and dad. Lucky, just like me, both our parents are still alive. So, right. And your brothers and your family and who you have, and we'll go from there. Your wife, your children. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. Well, again, I'm Jason Flame, and just excited to be here this morning. And so, thanks again for having me as a guest. I come from a family of five, although many of my extended family also lived right here in California. I was born in Thousand Oaks at Los Robles Hospital. I'm literally 10 to 15 miles from where I was born. And my mom and dad are still with us. They just moved to Utah. My dad was in construction my entire life. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, so she was always there for everything we did. She was actually the one that was responsible for getting me involved in martial arts. I have two younger brothers, Justin, who is just 4 years younger, who went into construction as well. We all worked with my dad when we were younger, and he took that on and continued. And then our youngest brother, Jacob, who's 7 years younger than me, also owns a martial arts school in Newbury Park where we grew up. So they're both doing real well. They have kids of their own. They're married, and super proud of them. My wife, we met in 93, about a year after I graduated high school. Interesting story how we met, but I'll save that for another time, or maybe you'll ask me more about it. But we met in high school. She was still a senior in high school at Agora, and we started dating in 93. She actually started training in martial arts that very same year. And we have two children, 19 and 16. Mason thinks he's 17. Jackie's right outside, right here watching. And Maddie's 19 and just graduated high school, going into her second year at Moorpark College. My son Mason's a junior in high school, absolutely loves wrestling, and he played football and baseball, and I enjoyed time coaching him in those sports. Got a couple dogs, Brittany and Buster. Brittany is the little one, and she beats up on the big bulldog. And yeah, so that's a little bit about me. I grew up in Newbury Park, lived there, most of my childhood, all the way up until I was probably right after high school. I moved out here to Moorpark and opened up our karate school. And I'll let you ask some more questions so I don't take up too much just blabbing on.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I think that you do a lot of hosting yourself, so nobody gets to know really about you and your And I have a more I got a relationship with you for many many years. I mean, we're looking at probably 20 plus years at this point now. I mean, how old are you now?
I think it's like 30 years. I'll
I
be
keep
47.
I see 20 all the time because that's what sounds a
Right.
lot,
Right.
but it's not. It's like probably like 30 because I'm old as dirt.
Well,
So
I think I was almost 19 when I came to work for you and started training with you.
mm,
We met. Well, my earliest recollection from you, I probably have told you this before. My earliest recollection of you was at the martial arts ballet. Our instructor, Mr. Chikawa, uh, put this event on, and it was a huge performance. And I just remember this big green belt just trashing everybody, picking people up and throwing people and loud. And I'm like, dude, this guy's crazy. But it was cool. I was probably like 10, 11, something like that
yeah,
back then when I
yeah,
first met you.
yeah, green belt. So yeah, because I started. You got to start martial arts, I think, as a child, more and more in your, I guess, preteen years. I think, right?
I was 10 years old.
Yeah, and so and I didn't start until I was in my 20s. So that's just a different just a different time frame that you got to grow up in it, and I kind of
Hmm.
grew into it. You know what I mean? And yeah,
Hmm.
I was loud and proud back in the day, that's for sure. So
Not much has
um,
changed.
yeah, and I'm a little more mellow sometimes.
Just a little sometimes.
So, but so let's talk about your. I want to talk about not your martial arts just yet, but your family. Okay,
Sure.
I want to talk about. We just got to watch your son Mason do his thing yesterday. He just tested again in Krav Maga. Went through the shoot house, went through all that stuff that happens. You know what I mean? And what's it like? What's it like from the sidelines
Hmm.
watching your
Yeah,
son do his thing?
it's crazy because I don't often get to be a dad. As a matter of fact, I asked Mr. Carlin before the test. I said, we have enough black belts, right? Because can I just be a dad to watch this test? Um, and gosh, I get goosebumps when I start thinking about my kids training because they both started when they were just babies. Literally, Maddie and Mason both started at 2 years old. I couldn't wait to get them out on the mat. And Maddie pursued dancing and did some other things. But watching my son, and I know you've had this. It's a different experience when you go through martial arts with your son. Just your relationship with your son is so different than with your daughter. Like, my daughter gets away with everything, right? Like she can just
Hmm.
have whatever she wants and she could break me down to just about nothing. But my son, it's just I'm so proud of him. Watching him yesterday test, he's had his shoulder dislocated 2 times, and he just powers through stuff. I mean, I was watching him grapple grown men with essentially one arm because he doesn't really use his right arm when he's grappling, and he was tapping people out. I was blown away. I was shocked by that. But even more than that, his skill is one thing, but just he was never a competitive kid. When he played baseball and soccer, I would always be a little bit frustrated, like, dude, come on, like, be more aggressive. He just wanted to have fun. That's always been Mason's thing. He just wants to have fun. And so getting the aggressive side to come out in him was kind of new. And I think actually it was football that really brought out the aggressive side, and then wrestling has just become he just really really loves wrestling. But his work ethic is unbelievable. I look at him every time and go, I was nowhere near that caliber of an athlete. I didn't have that same, and let me tell you, my dad was probably the hardest worker. My dad.
Right.
I mean, nobody worked harder than my dad. He'd work 20 hours and be ready to do more. Um, I hope that I helped instill that work ethic, but that's probably the thing that I'm most proud of is that he can just get out there and work. He's hitting the pads, he's hitting his all his push-ups, sit-ups, squats, and just running through it. So yeah, it's an awesome experience. It's one of my favorite things to watch Mason do whatever he's doing, whether it's on the mat or on the field.
Yeah, he's been. I've been enjoying watching him because I remember we talked about wrestling with him one time, and he really wasn't into wearing the tights, so he didn't even do it.
That's
So,
right.
right, so that's where it first started. I remember us. I remember you, not us. I remember you trying to push him to do it, and he's like, "I'm not wearing
Hmm.
the tights." You know what I mean? I kind of remember that, and I watched you yesterday, and I've told you guys this before. You got a very strong, you got a strong school, but you have this strong family bond. I noticed it again yesterday. I don't, I'm pretty observant of what happens, but your so your wife is there all, whether you're testing or your kids or students, she's there and she's snapping pictures. Part of that, Jackie's part of that, doing that. And then you're there cheering, being the cheerleader for Jason. For Jason, well, that's she's there. She's there for that too, especially
Yep.
when we're beating on your ass. But being that cheerleader for Mason, and then you see your daughter show up.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I've noticed that you've grown quite a strong family bond there within your home. Um, and I've always admired it, to be honest with you, that you have this closeness with your family the way it is, and you guys come together and you support each other, and you're there with each other.
Hmm.
And so I just wanted to put that out there, that we have some other school owners that are watching, I'm sure. And it is martial arts business is a hard business because we work when everybody's coming home and having dinner, and then they're going to go in for a workout. You know what I mean? Like we get a workout at 10 or early morning or 10 o'clock, and they're coming in for their workout after work. You know what I mean? So we don't have those family dinners where we're sitting down at the table and stuff like that, especially in the beginning when we first opened up our school, and you had to have this cohesive unit that worked well together. And you just, I don't know, you did that. And it's always admirable to I've always admired watching from afar that, because I do watch that. And, I love Maddie just like you do. She's almost like a little daughter to me. Matter of fact, last time she came, she's calling me and she's like, "Mr. Cox, you want some coffee?" And she brings
Yeah.
me, she brings me coffee. It's just a testament to both you and Jackie's, your leadership in your homes, and just growing some great kids, man. And Mason was a beast. So I did enjoy. I just want to talk about that a little bit because, you've also coached some baseball,
Hmm.
right? What we used to as a school, like we were always in competition with, right, soccer, baseball, whatever. You just embraced it also and said, "Well, I might as well coach it." You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And which proved once again, right, that martial arts is part of your life, part of a kid's life. It should be a long-term part of life, because most sports, they have an end date, right?
Hmm.
They have a season, and
Right.
martial arts don't have a season.
Right.
But the martial arts should be able to bring out the better athlete as far as respect goes, and work ethic goes. And probably back then is when you saw, because of the martial arts, you see them step up. I'm just a
Hmm.
firm believer that the base in martial arts, the self-discipline that comes with it. I just talked about this, I think, again on the mat the other day, about discipline and self-discipline, and
Right.
motivation and discipline are two different worlds.
Hmm.
We're motivated to do stuff every morning we wake up, but, by noon it's gone, and discipline has to step in. So
Yeah.
I just think that it shows, it shows just a really good character on yourself. That two things. First of all, you can be a dad that does coaching and teaching. And the second thing is, your kids can still play after school sports and do
Hmm.
martial arts.
Right. Well,
You know what I mean?
so here's the deal. Back in the day when I first opened my school, and I remember even before opening a school and being an instructor at different schools, I remember actually being irritated by other sports. I was always irritated by the other activities because they got in the way of martial
Mhm.
arts. It is how I looked at it. And everything changes. Everything changes when you have kids. To all those people that told me when I was a young teenage instructor that you'll see when you have kids, you were right. You 100% right, because I did not understand just that whole other side of it. And so I was against other sports. I would tell my kids all the time, not my kids, but my students, I would tell them, oh, you can miss that baseball game. You can miss this. Like, why do you have to miss karate? And then when our kids started getting involved in sports, of course, I wanted to be there and I wanted to be involved. I have a hard time sitting on the sidelines as it is. So I wanted to get out there. And so I really started to embrace how we teach martial arts, like you said, and bringing it out on the field. There were so many times that I would literally start a baseball practice, and I'm talking with like 4 and 5 year olds. I would start them on the first base line. They would have to come to attention. We'd have some kind of discussion or mat chat, and then we'd get going into our warm ups. And most of the warm ups that I did weren't necessarily baseball drills or skills. They were just things that I knew that would help their coordination, it would help their balance, it would help their speed. And
Yeah.
so I started watching how things went along. And it was then, when our kids were doing sports, soccer, baseball, then football, that I said, man, our martial arts really makes these athletes just so much more focused, have so much more discipline. They're respectful. I would insist that every player, I didn't care if they were 4 years old, they went and shook hands with every coach after practice. That was just a thing they had to do, because we raise our hand and bow to black belts. It was, I wanted to instill that same thing. And I had a lot of compliments from parents. They're like, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I've been teaching martial arts for, quite a while. And they said, I love it. I love your approach. And that was when I realized that the way we teach can really impact people in every aspect of their life, not just on the mat, not just kicking, punching, blocking. I mean, I kind of always knew that, but I never really saw it until I saw my kids playing sports. So now I'm a huge advocate. I'm all about trying to get our black belts to be wrestling in high school, to be doing football and sports, because these kids need the outlets, they need the social interaction, they need some goals. Like, who knows, the more opportunities you have, you play football, you wrestle, whatever, you may have more opportunities when you move on to college. But I really encourage them to play sports, and that they can do both. That's the thing, is they don't have to pick and choose. They don't have to choose karate or soccer. You can do both. And check it out, my mom is watching from Utah. What's up, Mom?
Yeah.
Love you.
Yeah, there she is. Jose is on it too. Patrick's on
Hey,
it
Jose.
too. Hey. I think that, watching, I think that that's such a lead into what we do outside the mat, that punching and kicking is so little of what we do to develop a winner's mindset. And so, I've watched you do that, take it on. You know who else did that? Believe it or not, I got to give him props for that. Is Frankie McConnell. He went and coached his kids too.
Mm-hmm.
His kids played soccer and all that kind of stuff too. And Mikey, most of my kids didn't play sports. Michael played some baseball, and I told you my stories on the baseball field. Just the disrespect of parents was just uncanny in my. It was super hard for me, because I'm like, that stuff just does not fly inside my school.
Right.
And I would just lose it. It's like, this is just ridiculous.
Well, let me share this story really quick, because I can also attest to that. And remember Dan Povitz?
Yeah, I remember Dan.
Okay, so if he's watching, or you watch this later, he'll remember this, because when I was coaching an all-star game, let's not forget that I'm a very competitive person. I hate losing. There's nothing that I can't stand more than losing. I always play to win, right? And so we're playing a game, and something was going on, and baseball there's always a little bit of chatter with the coaches, and I remember I was getting heated. I was getting heated on a call, because an umpire was just doing a terrible job. Probably wasn't really my place to step up and tell him he wasn't doing his job, but of course I did anyway. And I remember hearing a voice from across the field. Hey, Master Flame, you should probably calm down and step back in the dugout. And I went, oh God. I'm like, who's calling me out, right? And it was Dan. So at the time, it was super super embarrassing, because here I am, a martial arts instructor that's supposed to have discipline, but I'm the one getting heated and going nuts because I'm so in the moment of winning this game. So yeah, it happens. It happens, and I think that I was always told that I was a very passionate coach. Um, I always wanted the best for my players and for my team. And so that part of the game, man, that really does come out. That side, it's very easy. It happens very quick, even even at the 5-year-old divisions. But anyway, just
Yeah.
a funny but not so funny story.
I think you shared that with me. I run into Dan every once in a while. I'll bring up that story when I see him because he's over here. I see his wife quite often too.
Yep.
But yeah, he was a huge baseball. But I guess he put you in check, huh?
Yep, he did. He absolutely did.
It's funny how that happens, right? We don't really realize how many people are watching us when we're in the moments. You've heard plenty of stories on my side too that I'm just like, oh man, I should have not done that. You know what I mean? And then we, which can lead into, so we talk about your coaching and your family, and you got your strong unit that you have, and so in that, I guess that pushes you out to your community. I ran for office here. Just I've been on the the board here, the neighborhood board here. That's an experience, the chamber and everything else, and this is what you're involved in your hometown. And I got to tell you, you've done some stuff. It's a testament to both, because I know Jackie's in the background doing most of this, planning, because she's got that skill. But but having you guys, that I have tried to mimic some of the stuff that you guys have done in Moorpark, especially the tree lighting. And because I kind of like Christmas.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, because my tree's already up.
Is it 97 days right now, or what?
Yeah, it's 97 or 96, but my tree's already up and it's decorated for fall. And then we'll right after Halloween we'll have it ready for Christmas. But so when I tried to do this, because we got this great train center, this metro train center, and there's a big thing of land right there. There's no reason it can't look nice and put up a tree and have this tree lighting. I'm telling you that I've tried it for 2 years and to no avail. I can't get. So to see what you've done in your small town, being able to do that has been awesome, by the way. So there's no way, I can tell you from my experience in being part of the Chamber of Commerce and I've been on the Chatsworth Neighborhood Council now for 3 terms. You know what I mean? And the political side of it, when you got to work with LA, is just a nightmare. You know what I mean? They just don't really, you really realize how important local politics are in the short run, right? And to make your community, be able to have something. Yeah. And so I've watched you guys do this. I've tried to mimic this thing, and I have just been up against road stop after road stop being able to do it. I've asked you questions about it, and so what's it? I mean, one of the main things you guys do that is the Christmas thing, where you guys kind of have Highland. Now, Moorpark is kind of an old town. It's kind of like it's even smaller than Simi, right? Where it's got this old town feel. You got this one old town part of town, right? That kind of looks, rustic and stuff like that, right? So, what's that like for you now, serving on communities? First of all, why did you do it? And what's your benefit out of it? What did you start to do, but what has it benefited you? You understand what I'm trying to ask there?
Yeah, for sure. Well, it all goes back to this, and I tell this story a lot around Thanksgiving time, because One of the first things that we ever did as far as a community service was we did a kickathon, and we raised money so that we could purchase food, so we could put together food baskets to donate to our food pantry, right? I really never had any intention of ever getting involved in any kind of politics because I just can't stand politics. I hate the inside games. Um, I never really thought that I would be in a position where I would be looked upon as a leader in the community. I was always very comfortable being a leader in my school because that's my niche. Those are my people. That's my family. I'm a karate guy. That's what I thought. And so I never really saw myself getting to do some of the things that I do now. But it all started with that kickathon. And if hopefully my mom's still watching, but I remember distinctly. I don't remember my age, but I remember my mom saying, "Hey, we're gonna go to the grocery store. We're gonna go get groceries." She didn't say grocery store. We're gonna go get some food. And I said, "Okay, I'll go." And so we pull up to somebody's house, and we pull up to this house, and I'm like, "Mom, I thought we were going to get food." And she said, "We are. Just come on." And so we go to the door, knock on the door. This lady, I still remember her name was Bernadette. Uh, we walk in. She invites us in the house, and we walk into her house, and then we go into her garage, and her garage is full with food. Canned food, the old block cheese, powdered milk, that kind of thing. And so, we kind of picked out what we needed and grabbed our stuff and went home. And I back then I don't really remember how I felt or what I thought or anything like that. I really even as a kid when we were poor, broke, whatever, didn't have a lot. Like it honestly didn't really seem that bad. I mean, we did live in a 20-foot travel trailer for quite a number of years. The five of us, but then again, like that was just normal. I just didn't really think much of it. So getting that food that time always comes back in my mind, and I told myself later as a teenager, and there were a lot of other times that I remember, struggles, and things were not easy when I moved out. My parents moved to Oregon, and I decided I was going to stay in California. I'd just met this girl. We just started dating. I didn't want to leave. That was Jackie. um, and so I stayed here and struggled a lot. But anyway, it goes back to that day picking out food, and so we started a what we called a basket brigade. And we donated, I think the first year we did I think it was 50 baskets of food, and then it went to 100, then it went to 150, and one year we did several hundred. And so that's where community service really started in Moorpark for me, really started to kick in. And I'm like, wow, that was really cool. That was a good feeling. And I always tell the story to my kids about going to get that food, and how I remember at some point I told myself, if I ever have enough money or if I ever have the means to do something good, I'm going to pay that forward, and I'm going to make sure that I help people that need help. So that's where it started. And then just, little things here and there. Our kids were little. Um, Jackie was always involved. She was always team mom. She was always the classroom mom. She was always helping, always, serving in some way. And honestly, sometimes in the beginning, there were times where I didn't want to do it unless I was getting something back. I was like, well, if I'm
Mhm.
going to do that, I want an advertisement for the studio. I want flyers and so yeah, in the beginning, it's kind of how it was. But then I started realizing the more that we were giving, A, it just felt good, and B, people really do recognize that, and they started asking. Then people started asking, "Hey, can you do this? Can you do that?" Sure, absolutely. Can you provide breakfast for the teachers? Absolutely. Can you come and teach a PE class? Absolutely. Can you do this? Can you do that? And before I know it, we're just kind of volunteering in every in everything. We just really dove in. Like I said, I moved here in '93 to Moorpark, and we've been here almost ever since. Lived in Simi for a little bit, but we've just really dove in and done a lot of things, learned a lot, and helped a lot. And when it came to the chamber, I think I was 19 years old when someone recommended that I join the Chamber of Commerce. So I did because I thought that's the thing you do. And then I go to the chamber, and I even tell this to my board of directors sometimes. I say, I would show up, and it just didn't feel right. Just didn't feel good. I didn't feel welcome because I was 19. Everybody else is like, you know,
Old.
whatever. Well, I mean, I don't want to say old because I'm almost that age now, but it wasn't comfortable. I didn't feel like I fit in, so I bailed, and then I quit going to the chamber, didn't participate, and then I started seeing things, and I didn't really like what I was seeing. I started hearing things, didn't really like what I was hearing, and I could have either just sat back and bitched and moaned that like I don't like this or it's not going well, and I said, you know what? You know the old saying, if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah.
So I jumped in. I just jumped in, joined the chamber again, started going to meetings, um, volunteered to help out with different events. Was asked to sit on the board of directors. Within I think the first year and a half, I was asked to be the chairman of the board, and so I'm just finishing up my second year as the chairman. This will be my final year as chairman. I'll remain on the board. I've learned a lot about how things work at the higher levels. I've made a lot of really good friends because when you start doing things, you start volunteering, you start giving back, you start surrounding yourself with people that are doing the same.
Correct.
Right? It's very easy to be the one that sits on the sidelines, and I mean, God, you see it on Facebook all the time, right? The bitching and moaning and complaining, and yeah, oh my gosh, it drives me crazy because the people that complain the most do the least.
That's correct.
They literally sit and do nothing, but they want to complain about what everybody else is. Oh, they should do this, and who's they? Where are you? Right?
Right.
What are you actually doing? And so, like I said, I could have sat there, and I was that person for a bit. I was really bitter and just like I couldn't get in, right? I always wanted to get in, and I couldn't. And then I found a different door. And so, that's kind of where we are now. And then the tree lighting, holiday on High Street, one of the one of the things that we're most proud of is, Jackie and I have some good friends, Mike and Trisha Shields, Daniel Jill Renee Groff. We literally sat down for dinner. Maybe it was lunch. We're eating at Lucky Fools. It's Mike and Trisha's place. And we're just chatting and just ideas start flowing. And before you know it, we're like, let's do this thing. And it was like weeks of planning and preparation.
Mm.
And here we are now, several years later. And there's always some red tape. We went from being completely and totally independently funded by sponsors and with our own investment in the project, but now we partner with other businesses. We partner with other, the city. They help sponsor the event. We still manage the event. We still run the event. We still plan the event. But now we've got the buy-in from everybody else that really want to be a part of it, and that's been a huge blessing for us.
Yeah, it's been great. It's good to see what you do with your, you know, it's the unsung stuff that you see. I don't know any other business. Do you know any other business that is supplying teachers supplies when they start needing it, feeding the teachers in the morning, getting baskets ready, Christmas time, for the children. This is the mark of a real martial arts school that is a pillar in that community. Now you've been in I've been in Chatsworth for over 30 years now. You've been in Moorpark for how long? 28, 25?
Yeah, since I moved here in 93, started my program at the Arroyo Vista Rec Center in 94, opened the official location in 96.
96. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because I had been around, because I opened in 90, October of 1990.
Right.
And so that sounds about right. But, Chatsworth has been a beacon of, whether we're in right next door to the laundromat or the bar, it's always been kind of a pillar of light, just like your school's been in Moorpark.
Mm-hmm. Do you know why I chose Moorpark or how I chose Moorpark?
I do not.
So, I earned my black belt in 91, was teaching for Mr. Chikawa. In 93, I started teaching for Conrad Ercolano. He hired me to come teach at the Spectrum Club. I was also teaching for Tiffany Wing at the time in Simi Valley. And then at one point, you offered me a job to come teach for you. Well, I would have to drive through this area, and I would be coming through this area a lot. And so I never knew, I never really knew where Moorpark was. I heard of it. Again, growing up in Newberry Park, everything we did was on the 101. And back in the day, the 23 didn't go through to the 118. You'd have to get off the 23, cut across like Olson, then get on the freeway, and then head out to Chatsworth, or go the long way out and around, right? Well, anyway, when I decided to open a school, it was you, it was Mr. Chikao, it was Tiffany Wing, and I'm like, well, I can't open in TO. I didn't want to open in my hometown. That was something that I never ever wanted to do, and then ultimately my brother was the one that did. But I said, where can I open that's far enough from my instructors? And so like between TO and Chatsworth, it literally, like, Moorpark was kind of right in the middle. So that's why I chose Moorpark.
Yeah, well, it looks like that was we're men of faith, so God puts us where God needs us. So that's I don't think anything happens by chance, for sure.
100%.
You know what I mean? So I believe that you guys are put there on purpose for a purpose. So it's been good. So that's been good. I wanted to have other people talk about, because you get to consult now. Let's talk about your consulting, and then we'll get in a little bit of martial arts and 75 hard. But let's talk about your consulting, what that looks like for yourself. Why did you decide to be a martial arts consultant?
Well, I don't know. Once again, I don't know that I really decided. I never thought to myself as a martial arts instructor that I was going to go on to be a business consultant. As a matter of fact, as a kid, I wasn't really fond of the business aspect. I always liked making money, but I didn't really like to do the stuff that it took to make money, right? Like, I just thought, as most people did, hey, I love teaching karate. I'm pretty good at it, and I get paid for it. That's pretty cool, right? Long story short, it was 10 years after I was in business. So right around 2005, 2006, you had recommended, or you had asked me if I knew what the martial arts super show was. And I said, I have no idea, because I've never been to one of these things. Prior to that, Jose's on here. I didn't know what EFC was. I think we barely did any kind of auto pay or any kind of direct deposit stuff back then. Like, we were still, I would highlight people as they paid and stuff. I didn't really get into I didn't go to a lot of seminars, business seminars. I went to a lot of tournaments and learning different martial arts, but didn't really know anything. So you said, hey, check this thing out. It's in Vegas. Okay, cool. I did. I went. Back then I had a group of instructors that were really kind of hungry. They were really, they were with me when we were making a lot of changes and going to the next level. And I said, hey guys, let's go check this out. So we did. Sat in on a success seminar. Frank Silverman, Mike Metzger were leading that event. Back then, Robbie Beard was just kind of coming in, and I'm listening, and I'm going, this is incredible. I'm hearing information that I had never heard before, and it was exciting. And I looked at my wife and I said, I think we should do this. And we ended up joining the Maya Elite program, which at the time was $1,000 a month. And $1,000 a month was like, I think my rent back then was $2,000 a month.
Right.
And so I'm like, man, I'm going to pay $1,000 a month to learn how to run my school and how to, like, all this. Oh God, but it sounds good. And so stuck with that. I actually ended up upgrading my program too, moving into what they called the Elite Plus at the time. And I was in the program about 3 years, and that was kind of the completion. And Mike Metzger and I developed a really good relationship. He and I were pretty close to the same age, had a lot of the same interests. We were both pro wrestling fans. We talk about that. We both like to train a lot. And something clicked. They saw something in me, and they said, how would you like to come on board as a consultant for Maya. And I was just like, I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if I'm good enough. It's kind of like when you earn your black belt. I don't know if I'm good enough to teach. I don't know if I'm prepared for that. Because my first experience like leading a full class, I remember earning my black belt. Back in the day, we would test for black belt, and we wouldn't get presented our black belt until like a week later. The night that I got presented my black belt, Mr. Chikawa says, "Here, you lead class." And I'm like, "Huh? Like, what do I do? Whatever you want." Okay. So anyway, Mr. Metzger talks to me. He said, I believe in you. I think you'd be great for this. I think you have a great mind for it. I worked under him really, really closely. And so I came on as a consultant. And so that was probably back 09 into 2010, and consulted with them for almost 10 years. And I really, like as an instructor, you learn. Everybody thinks that the teacher is teaching so much, but the teacher learns so much more from the students. And so I would learn so much from my clients. And I really got the systems down. I really feel like I embrace that. And it fits my personality because I'm a very systematic person. I'm very type A personality, OCD to the max on just about everything. And so it just fit, and everything had its system. And so I consulted clients all over the world. I had clients that I would Skype with back in the day in Australia. Had a great relationship with. I remember a couple of them. Ross Taylor, if you watch this, we were Raider fans together. We'd always talk about the Raiders too. Had clients all over the country. I would fly to different seminars and lead those. And it was interesting because about 2 years ago, I decided that it was time for me to step back from that because I felt like I felt like I was just getting stale. Honestly, I just felt like I have a niche of things that I teach and a niche of things that I did, and I was also taking on other projects. All of these community projects here in Moorpark, the Holiday on High Street, the Moorpark Country Days, the Chamber of Commerce, now our new business, the restaurant. All of these different things were starting to take up my time, and I didn't feel that I was giving the consulting my utmost attention. It wasn't my priority, and so I decided to step back from consulting. So I'm currently not consulting, although I love helping my friends. I love helping anybody that asks me, and I love doing the podcast because it still gives me a great way to stay in tune with a lot of the leaders in the martial arts.
Right. So, yeah. So we'll talk about the podcast. Why, I had been, I had looked into this and set myself up for podcasting for a while. And my original thing was this was a way for me to leave a legacy. So when I'm gone, my kids can always go back. They can always see video of it, and they can see the audio portion of it and listen to me and get a sense of who I was, or, when I'm gone and I have great grandchildren, that they're going to say, who was your dad, or, who was my grandpa and stuff like that. They'll have something to look back on. This is really kind of the reason I started it. And what was your reasoning for popping in?
Yeah. So I always set goals for the new year. I mean, I'm setting goals constantly, but I asked myself, I like challenges, and I like numbers, like doing things consecutively. I don't know what it is or why, but I sat down towards the end of 2020, and I said, well, what am I going to do for 2021? Like, what's going to be my thing? And because 75 hard took up a big chunk of my time. I was into Spartan races for a long time, and doing that. I do push-up challenges, 100-day burpee challenges. I just like that schedule. I said, what could I do? And then I'm scrolling through Facebook, and obviously with COVID, all the nonsense, there's just a lot of negativity, quite honestly, and that's what I saw. And on social media in general, just a lot of negativity, a lot of woe is me, a lot of whining, complaining, whatever. And I tend to gravitate towards, looking at some of the leaders and the positive mindset and the goal-oriented mindset. And I said, I know a lot of people throughout my years that I've made a relationship with that are super motivating people, super inspiring people. And I said, why don't I interview them and let people hear from them? And so, my group was called Master Fitness at the time. And so I just took out the fitness and said motivation. So I started with kind of a group and daily posting, and then I started doing the podcast. And then every Monday, got Brandon Beliso on later today, and I've talked to a lot of people in the martial arts industry, a lot of people that are just close friends of mine that have had an impact. I have several pro wrestlers that I'll have coming on, and I'm looking towards 2022 and wondering, how I already have a list of at least 30 to 40 people that I couldn't fit in 2021 because I do it every Monday and I had 52 guests. So that's how I got into it. I was kind of tired of the negativity, and I wanted to put something out that was more positive. I agree with you that I think it's a great legacy. My son watches these. I never really asked him to, or I mean, I asked if he did, right? Because he'd tell me, I watch this one or I watch that one. He really liked watching yours with John, probably because I think he wants to go into the military, but I don't know. And he's listening, and he'll tell me little things out of each interview. Oh, I didn't know this about this person, or he'll say, wow, I didn't know you know that person. That's really cool. So, yeah, I think it'll be a good legacy later for his kids and his kids' kids. Also for my students, I think it does show, even though the podcast for me is all about my guest and all about the person I'm interviewing, I think that there's little pieces of me that people learn about along the way as well. I try not to get too much into my story, so that's why I'm excited to actually get interviewed this time.
Yeah. Well, it's good. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know how that goes. How to make sure that to learn about. I'm always amazed at what I find out and where it can take a turn in the, because I don't really prep real much for this. I kind of handwrite some stuff down that I want to look at and I want to come, but very rarely does it go that route. Something swings in there and it goes off on a tangent. You know what I mean? So, and so let's talk about your martial arts now. We both have same instructor, Mr. Chikao. So we're in American Tang Soo Do, which is the Chuck Norris system, is where we started.
Right.
Were you at when we did the big, what do we call those conferences, when Dave Myers was there and we were supposed to, were you there at that conference?
Yep. I was there. I think that I hit all of the conventions, right? The ATSDA convention. Dave Meyer, we had Tadashi Yamashita. We've had, high level people. We had Farbors come. We had Benny Urquidez come. We almost had John Hackelman one year. We'll get him another time. Yeah, we've had some great people, and that was where it kind of spawned a lot of my interest in other arts, in other avenues. But the person that probably brought me out of Tang Soo Do first was Brian Nan. Brian Nan was my private instructor from the time I was a red belt to black belt, and back in those days he was dipping his toes in just about everything else, and it was when jiu-jitsu and not Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but just the Japanese version.
He took from George Kirby.
Yep.
And it was we did some of that stuff together. It was fun, man, watching. He always dipped. I know you're having him come on here soon. So Brian Nam, when he was a young dude, who did this, you ask him about this story. He had his own room above the house. Okay. And he used to do, all his martial arts weapons. You know how Brian was back in the day, but he would dig a hole and he would jump in the hole and jump out of the hole. This is how he built his legs. Spike kick, jump kick. And then when he could do it easily, he'd dig the hole deeper,
right,
until he can and then jump out of it. So he just did some old school stuff. So you couldn't have picked a better guy back.
That doesn't shock me at all, because he was definitely unique in the way that he trained me. for certain things. But another side note about Brian Nan too is you talk about when I first opened my school. The name that I used when I first opened it, at one time it was Tang Soo Do University,
Yeah.
and Brian and I had gotten really close, and he was planning to open a school, and he said, "I want you to be the head instructor." And I was like, "Oh, that's like that's a big, like, for someone to ask you to be their head instructor of their school." I was like, "Whoa, that's super awesome." And he's showing me brochures that he already made up, and it said nice and big, Tang Soo Do University. And I said, "That's such a cool name." And then he ended up moving to Georgia and doing his thing out there. And so in that time, when I decided to open my school, I asked him if I could use that name. And he was like, "Yeah, go ahead." Since then, we've obviously changed the name because I feel we still teach Tang Soo Do and the lineage of Tang Soo Do as far as the traditional forms, which we probably won't go off on that tangent of that topic, but we still do that. But we've really brought in a lot more Krav Maga and blended a lot of the jujitsu that I trained in before, Hapkido. XMA. We were American top team school at one point. I just felt that name didn't fully represent what we taught, and to the general public, people would never have any idea how to say it,
Right.
because it was always like Tang.
Tang Soo Do.
Yeah, I mean, even experienced martial artists, people that I know, still say Tang Soo Do. I'm like, you're killing me every time. But anyway, so here we are.
Yeah. So, and that, that brings in Krav. I pushed you for a long time. I want you to do this. I think you should do this. I've always felt this. The beauty of Mr. Chikao was allowing us to kind of go off and bring something back. That was what he always said. I don't care what you go learn, bring it back. You know what I mean? And so I've always stuck with that. And, I wanted nothing to do with Krav Maga at all. I always thought it was a big hype and everything else until I went to a gun seminar, and it was really eye-opening for me. I was like, wow, I've got 100 black belts and they couldn't defend themselves against a gun on their best day because we did the stupidest shit ever with a knife and the one-step knife tech. I mean, when I look back on what we did, I'm like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? And I feel now, Jay, that I don't know how you feel about this, but we had to start all this stuff late, right? But I think that's why we have such better students than we ever were. The athleticism of your son, the multiple stuff that they can do. It's because we saw a shortcoming in this art and decided to expand. And then that's how Krav came about. And I asked you for a long time, you need to do this. You need to do this. And so what changed the corner for you to go? What changed that corner?
So from the time I was a first degree black belt all the way up, it seemed like every time I was moving to the next level, second degree, third degree, and so on, right? I always kind of took on something, right? I mean, I think it was from first to second, I was doing a little more of the Japanese jiu-jitsu. From second to third, I did a little bit of Hapkido. And so I was always, because I'm always trying to, I want to keep growing, right? I want to keep learning. I don't want to get stale because I know what happens when I get stale and complacent. My students suffer. Everybody around me suffers. And so I thought it was important. When I came to you, and I knew that I remember when you started learning Krav and going through all the phase training, then implementing the schools, and then how that just kind of expanded out. It wasn't that I didn't want to do it or didn't agree with how it was taught or any of that. It was honestly, I know myself. If I say I'm going to do it, then I got to do it all the way, or it's just going to eat me up, right? And I knew that I was not ready. It was the same thing with 75 hard. I don't want to start something that I'm just going to do half-ass, or I'm going to do it for a minute, So what really turned the corner is I knew that I wanted to learn better knife defense and gun defense. Those were the two areas, that I didn't feel I had any knowledge in. Zero. I mean, like, we would literally do knife techniques doing this, or we would grab and do, a little wrist twist or something, which, for certain levels and learning techniques, I guess that would be okay. But I started thinking that I wanted to just expand my skills, and then I wanted to be able to give it to my students. And I remember distinctly, and I'll call it out before you do, but the gun, right? It was like I was not really a fan of doing gun defense. And I think I even said one time, like Moorpark safe, or Moorpark, there's no guns in Moorpark or something like that. And I don't think I meant it in the way that it was probably taken. But I mean, nowadays, like you just got to be prepared for everything and anything, right? And why rule out anything? So I started coming on Fridays, and we started with some basic gun and knife, and we kept doing it, and we'd be doing other stuff, and then I don't even really know how it came up, because I think Robbie and Greg had just tested for their yellow belt or something, and then me and Brandon and Josh, you're like, well, why don't you guys just test for yellow belt? And it wasn't even like a regular test like we do now. It was like, just next Friday you guys are testing for your yellow belt. And I swear to God, I thought I was gonna die. I think he wanted to kill us. I think he wanted to make us throw up, which is fine, because I actually enjoy workouts like that. I enjoy that. Um, so we tested for yellow belt, and I knew that once I tested for my yellow belt, I was gonna go to black belt. I just, like, it was just, that's what we're doing. And then the more I was doing it, and the more I felt part of it, I felt that's when I started thinking that it was time to change the name of the school, and kind of bring it, because the alliance, as tight as we were at one time, and how big of a group we had, it just wasn't necessarily as cohesive. And I think the biggest difference is that all the Krav guys trained together. None of the Tang Soo Do guys trained together. All the Tang Soo Do guys did was bicker about who was better, who had the bigger school, or who blah 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 blah. It wasn't very cohesive, to be honest with you. I didn't that part I didn't enjoy. Although we were all brothers that just bickered at each other, right? But Krav was different because we all trained together. And when you train together, there's a different relationship.
Yeah, so I guess I was going to ask you that question. What you think that the downfall of us having that cohesive unit in Tang Soo Do over Krav, and I think that's it. I mean, us getting together. Sometimes we didn't even train; we just sit and talk, and
Right.
um,
Mostly sit and talk.
and have yeah. I was here last Friday too. No one showed up. I was like, what the heck?
I know.
And having Carson come on board. I don't know. I don't know if it's maybe you guys are all a product of me, and so we were more cohesive. I'm really not sure what the change is. I tell you this: when my nephew died, and I watched firefighters come together for him, I'd never seen anything like it. Right, the brotherhood. It was. So here's the thing: when he was on life support, even. Do you know that they had men in there's his firemen men would take his shift so he could continually get paid.
Mm-hmm.
They would work his shift so he would have a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the brotherhood, even in my police experience, there's a brotherhood there, but there's a different brotherhood there. And I think it's because they live together and they do everything together. I think the fire departments, it's different, And I was like, why do we not have that as a martial arts thing? Why, when one of our own are sick, we don't send instructors? Why is it not like that? Why is it if Jay's going on vacation and he needs some sub in, why can't it be, hey, we're going to call up so and so, hey guys, this is what I need. Do you guys have instructors that can cover this day, this day, this day? Why do we not have that? It bothered me, right? Mm-hmm. And I couldn't seem to get it to come together in Tang Soo Do, but I was able to do it in Krav. And
well, if you remember, I think the time that things were, listen, and there's a lot of great times and a lot of good stories, great relationships that came out of it. I think the time that everything was the most cohesive was when we did the Friday night fight nights and we had the convention, because that's when we would have that chance to come together. Testing became um, testing just became a nightmare because you had everybody teaching their own way and teaching their own system and having their own expectations, and then I mean. Uh, when you have one school that fails every student and because they're not from that school, it has nothing to do with the students not living up to some kind of standard or whatever. It's the way they're being taught. And I can't expect your students to do necessarily what I want them to, and you can't necessarily expect mine unless we are doing the same thing in intermingling. I mean, our testing, fortunately for Krav Maga, works out. It's getting super big, and I foresee at some point that is going to be, there's going to be some kind of breakdown of how we do it. Because I mean, what do we have, like 100 people test this last Saturday? Um, but because we train together, we see eye to eye a little bit better, and we want. I want the best for each of the students from the other schools. I want to see them succeed. I don't always feel that we saw that before. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's one black belt in particular that literally would fail. And by the way, I was a jerk too. I did the same crap. When I was from TO, I would it just I would look for reasons to fail people, and that was just for a totally different reason. But back then, that's what I think, that's what ultimately killed it, and doesn't
Yeah.
allow us to continue to do what we do. But Krav has been great. Mindset and values, I think, make a big difference too. Um, you know, Most of us have the same mindset and the same values, and when you get several people in the room that have different values, it's going to be hard in the world we live in. My mom says unity and division. Yeah, I mean, there's so much division these days. It's easier to be divided than to just try to respect someone else's opinion.
Yeah, you're right about that. That's 100%. Yeah, that's good saying. Well, so that, that leads into, the 75 hard. So I know you watch me do it. I asked you, I know, several times, and you're like, man, I gotta be. Your wife just said good morning, handsome to me. That was nice, Jackie. Thank you.
Nice. I
Um,
knew I
uh,
knew she was talking to you.
um, the you know, what made you decide to get on the 75 hard? And this is where, this will be a segment that we can end on here and then talk about it a little bit, because it's going to be a minute. But what made you get first of all, what made you do 75 hard? And I want to know what book was the most influential that you read. Okay, so what made you get started?
Um, well, I mean, when you watch other people do something and they say it's hard, I'm kind of that guy that when you throw out a challenge, I kind of have to take it to see if I can do it. Just test myself. I did the same thing recently. Jay Walker said, something about, I'm going to try to do 100 burpees for 100 days, or I don't know how many days, but I did 100 burpees in 100 days just because I saw the challenge. I saw 75 hard as a challenge. I decided, well, I waited to do it for a long time because, once again, if I'm not all in, I don't want to do it for 15 days. It's 75 hard. And I'll tell you, 75, it's a bitch.
Yes.
It's like 75 days of, because so the hardest thing for me was the diet. Okay. The hardest thing was the diet because I got too caught up in the details. I got too caught up in making it like perfect. Right. And so I finally just decided I'm going to live on a very low carb, high protein diet, and not minimize, but eliminate all sugar. And you have to eliminate alcohol, which I'm not really a big drinker, but I do enjoy a glass of whiskey, or having a beer once in a while. Um, so that part wasn't really all that hard, but the sugar, I love candy. And my wife, if you're still watching, thank you for putting those sugar-filled pumpkins and candy corns out on the table, because like, how do you not walk by and like, it sucks. But I got super caught up on the diet. That's really the one thing that I was like, I don't know what I want to do. Like, and because like, do I want to live a keto lifestyle? No, I don't. Do I want to do this? Do I have to live by like a Mediterranean? No, like I got too caught up in that. So finally, that's what it was. It was a very low, if not zero carb, high protein, reasonable fats, but no sugar. Sugar was the biggest one for me. So cut it all out, and everything else was actually. I have not stopped reading, Jose, you're listening. I have not stopped reading 10 pages a day. And that's my thing. I do 10 pages every day since I did 75 hard the first time. And that's been almost a year now or more. I really am enjoying reading. I always told myself I hated reading. I didn't really hate reading. I hated what I was reading. So I'm more selective in what I read now. And I do only limit myself to 10 pages a day. I never read more than 10 pages a day, whether it takes me 10 minutes or 15 minutes. I literally do it every day on the bike as I warm up. I read my 10 pages, and it's how I clear my mind to do my workout. And I stop at 10 because I know if I read more than that, I might get bored or I might resent reading. So I stick with that. The water, the 1 gallon water, I drink a ton of water all day long. A gallon is a little more than I usually drink, but that one comes down to having a regiment, being disciplined. I had a system where I would literally wake up, I would drink 32 ounces of water before I even left the house. I would have to drink 32 ounces during my workout, and then I would just have my other half for the rest of the day. So that was manageable. And then I got into the phases. I did phase 1. I got 24 days in, literally forgot one single thing, one journal entry, and I still completed the 30 days, even though I missed that one day. But I still tell myself that I failed it, and it's okay. It's okay that I say I failed it. I still got the
it's
benefits.
okay.
I still got the benefits. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think that, but I really love the challenge of it. I love the challenge. I was on phase 1. I was getting up at 5:30 in the morning to go out on a walk. I'm not a morning person. I don't like to walk. I mean, I don't like to get up early. I just don't. I like to stay up late, but I don't like to go. I don't like to get up early. I did that during phase 1. Why? Because I had to push myself to do something different, right? Because if I'm doing something the same way all the time, every day, there's no growth. I started listening to more podcasts. I started listening to more, and I've been posting them in our group. My motivational, 10 minutes of visualization. That was a big one for me. I really enjoyed that. So
Right.
that's where I'm at with 75 hard. In like 20 more days, I'm going to do phase 2, which phase 2 is just 30 days of 75 hard. I mean, two workouts a day is, I don't know. For a lot of people, that might be a lot. For me, that's the easy part. The working out part is the easy part. Working out outside, not as easy, but 2 workouts a day. I mean, I would do 4 workouts a day if I had to. That doesn't bother me at all.
What was your worst? What was your worst outdoor workout? What was your worst? I'll let you know mine.
Worst, Mason actually did it with me. It was, I forget what time at night, and I hadn't done the second workout, and I hadn't been outside, and it was raining. So we just suited up and went out, and we came home, and like both of us had warm up pants on, and they were completely soaked, from hip to ankle, and just shoes are soaked. It sucked, and it was cold. That was probably the worst.
Yes. So I was on 75 hard when I traveled. Now, when you travel, I don't know if you've done 75 hard traveling, but you have to really kind of pick your workouts, like get up early, get a workout in. So when you land, if because it's always easy to go take a walk somewhere. So I landed, and then we have a delay, and I can't get outside, or I would have just done a workout outside.
Right.
I can't do push-ups and all that kind of stuff inside because it was not outside workout.
Right.
When we finally landed in Savannah, it is like hot, dude, and it is blazing, right? And it's nighttime. and I got to get this workout in. So I went down to the studio and I put kettlebells out. And so I put one kettlebell on the end of the parking lot and then the other at the other parking lot. And I'm going back and forth doing kettlebells and just doing this 45-minute workout. And then the torrential rain comes through. And I'm like, what the frick? I mean, I don't know if you've been a torrential rainstorm, but I was like, this sucks. But when I was doing it, tell me you don't feel this way. I was so pumped going, there's not another soul doing this kind of thing right now. They don't have enough balls to do it. Right.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it just pumped me. Right. And it would made that workout, as much as it sucked, as much as I loved it. Because I don't know about you, right? When you started, tell me when you started 75 Hard, was everybody was super motivating for you, or how many did it with you? Did it with you, and then they fell off. Like, man, I just can't. Good luck. By day 50, right? You're on your own.
Yeah,
that's when you and I talk, right? We're like, fucking day 50, bro, and nobody else cares,
right?
Nobody else cares one thing about what you're doing at that point, and now it's all about you. Did you feel that in 75 Hard?
Absolutely. I started with a few people. When I did 75 Hard, the first time, I wanted it to be like, I wanted to have this team and like kind of do it together and we can bounce off each other. And what's funny is, and after I had a few people tell me that they didn't tell me, I had a few people tell me after the fact that they didn't want to tell me that they failed it, like, somewhere part of the way through, because they thought that it would throw me off or whatever. They're like, yeah, like day 50, I was out, but I didn't say anything. And I was like, what the really? but then when I did phase one, the first time, once again, because whenever I do stuff, I tell everybody because to me it's accountability. If I tell everybody, they might ask me. But when I did phase one the second time, I didn't tell anybody. I just started and did it. I think I may have posted one time when I was done, and that was it. Like, that one was just truly only for me. I do remember being on a plane ride too, by the way. It wasn't on 75 Hard though. I was doing a burpee challenge. I remember having to do so many burpees on a plane and people looking at me like I was crazy, but whatever.
That's right. That's the thing. It was transformational for me. I don't know about 75 Hard being transformational for you. What was the most influential book that you read?
Goggins, It Can't Hurt Me. That book is, I could read that book again. And I listened to him. And some people ask me, they're like, how do you listen to him? He just sounds angry. I don't know. I find something in him that's just so unique. I mean, first of all, how many people have ever done what he's done? Gone through all the different training in the different military organizations, right? I mean, he's been through them all, and he's run incredible lengths. His pull-up challenge. I don't know. There's just something about that kind of spirit that really drives me. I kind of hear his voice a lot. I really enjoyed actually just reading the 75 Hard book. You and I have talked about this. I listened to Frisella not as often as I was in the beginning. I listened to him every day. There were days though that it was not good for me to listen to him, because I would treat everybody around me just like, you are worthless. You are pathetic. And I just, and he, once again, he does sound, I don't know why, like, these guys that are like, they have this grunt in their voice, and that's just that guttural, almost yelling at you, but when you listen to Jocko's a pretty intense dude, but he almost whispers, and he makes you feel like you're such, like, I don't know. Extreme Leadership was a great book, a little dry, because it was just a lot of information. I think what I got out of Goggins was because I felt like I was in his head a little bit. I felt like I understood what he was thinking, what he was going through, where I didn't really get that when I read Jocko's book.
So, yeah, I think that You're talking about extreme ownership. That was my go-to. It was a hard read, but a very easy listen.
Yeah.
Okay. The second time I did 75 hard, I wanted to go through it again. So what I did is I read the 10 pages while Jocko read it.
Got it.
So you know what I mean?
Yep.
And I think extreme ownership hit me hard because people just don't have it. It drives me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the guy said that, hey, we didn't want to tell you that in 50 days we quit. Why?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't want to tell me to make me not stop, or you didn't want to tell me because you failed. Which
Right.
one is it really? Come on.
Right.
Okay. You're putting off you didn't want to derail me because you derailed.
Mm-hmm.
Your failure will never derail me. You know what I mean? I can tell you that. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that's what it was. And it was eye-opening for me because, to be honest, I guess I'd have to look back on things and say, I have to take ownership on certain things. I always bring it back to the debt collector, right? Debt collector calls and you scream and yell at him because you're irresponsible with your finances, right? It's his fault that you're calling me. I dare you call me. And I guess I just teach that. I guess as a martial arts teacher, tell me it doesn't drive you crazy, where just say what you're going to say. Just have some ownership that, hey, it's, hey, I'm not doing this. And I guess that's why you had ownership. That's why you wouldn't do 75 hard and stuff. Cause you told me straight up, I'm not ready, man. If I can't commit to it, I ain't doing it. You know what I mean? I just thought that's just something that lacks, for sure. So we've already at a minute, an hour 15, dude. We can do this for a long time, but I wanted to hit some other stuff with you. So I'm going to have you end, Jay, what you think. Give us your whether it's 75 hard or whether it was your consulting, your two things. I want to know the most pivotal part in your life. What changed course for you? And how can it be applied to our students or people listening?
Pivotal point in my life. The most pivotal point in my life was when Madyson was born, because I didn't take, Jackie had a full-time job when we were first married and when we had Maddie. And when Madyson was born, we made the decision that Jackie wasn't going to go back to work. She was going to, stay at home and help me. And she's by no means really a stay-at-home mom, to be honest, because she probably works just as hard, if not harder than I do in all that she does. But when Madyson was born, it changed my life because it was no longer about just me or, just us, because Jackie and I could take care of ourselves. But having a family and having someone that was going to depend on me and someone to look up to me, because I always wanted my students to look up to me. But when you have this little baby girl looking at you, that is probably what changed my life, because that's when I decided to get more serious about the business. That was right around the time that I got into Maya and started learning, like, we need to make a little more money for our future, for her future. So I would say that was a huge pivotal moment in my life.
Well, how do you think that can help, what's the thing that you can tell your students that you want to end with?
Yeah, it's not all about you. It took me a long time to learn that it's not all about me. I don't teach in my school every day, not because I don't want to. It's because I want to allow leaders to grow within my school. I want to give opportunity to my team. It's not always about me and, me being promoted or me being put on this pedestal. It's about me helping other people come to the next level. So for young people, if I could go back and tell myself when I was younger, I would say, look at the people around you and help them up and bring them up and create a team and create a family. It's one of the things that I think that I'm most proud of in my school. And you said you've seen it, not just within my own family, my wife and my kids, but I really try to grow that within my students. They all take care of each other. They all look out for each other. I think that if we all do that a little bit more, we won't point fingers as quickly, right? I think that we'll all work together, for a solution instead of pointing out all the problems. So, it's not all about you. Bring up the people around you, create leaders within your organization, allow people to lead, allow your ego to kind of step to the side, and, just keep feeding them more opportunity.
That's good. That's good, Jay. So I'm going to end with this, Jay, for you. So I know we don't like getting, I know you're a lot like I am. I don't like getting a lot of acclimates. I'm not a big fan of being called grandmaster and all that kind of stuff. It's just not, I don't like that. You know what I mean? You know how I am. And I know that you're a lot the same way. You got a humble spirit when it comes to stuff like that. I think as we've gotten to be older men, it's even more prevalent when we've seen and have experienced life. We just see that what we thought were problems back then aren't really what they are. What's important. So with that being said, I want to tell you just, as your instructor, sometimes mentor and now peer and workout partner, because that's really what happens in life. Your students become peers and workout partners. I might have a little more life experience than you do, and you'll learn from me, but it's been a give and take as watching you, mature into the man that you are today. That it's been a pleasure to be your instructor. It's been a pleasure to watch you grow. I've learned from you just as much as you've learned from me. I think your strong family bond. I know marriage is not an easy thing, and even though you guys have a great marriage, that you've made a commitment to a marriage, and commitment means we don't quit even when our mood wants us to quit. And so I believe that's how you guys keep pursuing and doing things. And I think that you've made something that your kids get to see. Your son gets to see what, hey, my dad was a good man. This is what he did, is what he taught me. Your daughter knows love from a daddy that is an unconditional love. She's got a man that she gets to come to every time that she needs something. And so I just want to give that to you and appreciate the time that I get to tell people about you a little bit, because you're out there doing your thing. And so I wanted to end with that. I can keep on going, sir, but people are probably bored of us talking now as it is. So
no, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this. And I enjoy that we kind of do this together, right? We've got a tag team of podcasts on Monday. So, you guys are watching this now. Make sure you tune in every Monday to watch Real Talk with Mr. Cox.
And so yours is at noon, Master Motivation. You got somebody on today here just in an hour or so, correct?
Yes,
a couple
yes,
hours.
I do.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I do mine at 9, you do yours at noon. And, in between, I do a little one for the Master Motivation. I'll tell you, the Master Motivation, anybody who's looking in there, we should start putting these. Is it in Master Motivation? Is this live in Master Motivation, or is it only your podcast?
This is not. I actually don't do my podcast in there live, but I share it, and absolutely, You're welcome to share yours in there. And we've got a couple other people. It's been great having not only you, but we have Dave Kovar that shares. We have Sean Nelson, who has been sharing. Kevin Kowalczyk, Jose Escobar has been sharing. So it's been really good.
It's been good. I'd like to see a little more interaction from our it's a Master Motivation. And listen, we get motivation. If you guys are listening, we get as much motivation from you as you do from us. You got to engage. You got to engage, man. Okay.
Yeah.
You got to share things. You've got to share things. You got to say, hey, that relates to me, or hey, that doesn't relate to me. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And sometimes I think the best motivation is being honest. Like, I'm having a shitty day. I'm having a real rough one. Like, can someone give me a little kick in the butt,
Yeah.
So I would love to see that interaction in the group. So make sure you guys go and join it.
All right, man.
All right.
We'll see you on the telephone meeting in 45 minutes.
I'll see you in a bit. All right.